Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Panther Preview Show for the 16-17 school year. Once again, like we do in every episode, we'll be taking an in-depth look at Nicetown athletics. Each episode will highlight a specific Panther or Lady Panther sports teams, and today's focus will be the girls tennis team. In today's show, we will be talking with head tennis coach Jack Potter. We will also have student-athlete tennis members Marty Burton and Emma Grubbs. First on today's show, Coach Jack Potter. Coach, thanks for being with us today.
Sure thing.
Much like we do with most coaches, I'd kind of like to start off the show with a bit of discussion just about tennis in general. And then we'll kind of get into the season more so in the next segment. But can you give us a little bit background about yourself before coming to Nicetown?
Well, I started playing tennis when I was 14 years old. My first time going onto the court, the high school coach kicked me off the court and said I would never be any good. And so, like any athlete, you take that as a challenge. Mm-hmm. And so, a friend of mine and myself, that whole summer, we played from 6 in the morning to 11 at night. Sophomore year, we're now on varsity. And so, I'm hoping to be able to give that same knowledge and desire for our Lady Panthers.
Well, it kind of proves, kind of like Michael Jordan was when, got cut from his freshman basketball team. Whatever you want to do, you can do it.
You can.
So what attracted you to tennis? I mean, tennis, I guess, isn't the most, quote-unquote glamorous sport with the biggest crowds, the most high profile. What attracted you to tennis?
Well, for me, to begin with, I was very small in high school.
I don't know what that's like.
I couldn't play football. If I went out for it, I wouldn't get any playing time. I didn't like running as much as cross country did. So therefore, I said, I'll give tennis a shot. And so I went out and because tennis, there is no size limitation. Mm-hmm. If you can earn the spot, you get it. And so that's why I enjoy it.
And similar to that, tennis is a team sport. I ran cross country in high school as well. Tennis is a team sport, yet it's also an individual sport. We'll start with what benefits does that have for somebody that comes out for tennis being both ways?
For it being an individual sport, a couple of different things that it helps you with. You learn to become more self-reliant. The match is all on you. You win or lose on your own abilities. But at the same time, it helps you develop the problem-solving skills you're going to need through life. I mean, when you're coming against an opponent that is hitting harder than you, they still have a weakness. Mm-hmm. You have to find it and then start utilizing that weakness until you basically break down that wall.
What about drawbacks then? Are there any, or maybe drawbacks isn't the right word, negative sides to it being the individual and the team sport?
I don't think there's really any drawbacks, especially in tennis. I mean, you're going with it as an individual, but since you do have another team or other ladies on your team, they're there to help build you back up whenever you're having those tough times. And support and rally system with the fans will go a long ways. I mean, there's a reason you have home court advantage.
We were just talking with the girls on the way here that there's no really wind block at our courts or our facility at all. So they said it's kind of nice when you go to another school and they're like, oh, it's windy out here. And our girl's like, well, not really, because, we're kind of used to nothing going on out there. So what, in tennis, I'm in a tennis match, what kind of, or is there at all, a mental state that a player must be in to be successful in tennis?
There is. And I try to teach it to the ladies, and they have all grasped it fairly well. There's a line that you draw. You don't want to be mad. You don't want to be angry. But you have to have desire to hurt the ball. So you have a little bit of a tip of an anger because that's where your power comes from. But you can't let it overtake you to where you can't think about what you need to do and where the ball needs to go.
Okay. You get angry in a tennis match. This is going off topic here a little bit. You get angry in a tennis match and slam your racket or there's no official.
We don't do that.
Never. Is there a protocol that, can you get disqualified for that? Can the two coaches disqualify somebody?
You certainly can. If you abuse the equipment, racket, or what have it, and hit a ball out into the stands, coach you mad, you can be penalized a point, a game, or even a match.
Okay, so and that has always been curious to me because there is no official. It's all kind of like golf. It's kind of on an honor system where the coaches and the players kind of police themselves. What do you find most enjoyable about tennis? I know you've spoken on a couple of those already, but number one thing that you enjoy most about not just playing but coaching tennis as well?
It makes everybody equal. It doesn't matter what your background is, if you come from a family of wealth or from the farmland like I did. When you get on that court, everybody's equal. You can still take the ball to them and beat them as if they were just next door neighbor.
What about watching tennis then? You're going to put on Wimbledon or the U.S. Open or Australian Open. What do you find most about watching tennis?
I like the attitudes of the players, their focus. I mean, each point they take the time allotted so they can regroup, focus on the next point, and they don't think about the point previously. And when it comes to sports like this, you have to have that temporary amnesia. You have to forget about the bad shot that just happened and just get to the next one and keep building on that momentum.
And it's easier said than done, but you're right, you have to, or else that point will focus on the next one. And how hard has that been to relay to the girls that you have to have that amnesia, you have to clear your head?
On this team,
Mm-hmm.
It's not very hard at all. These girls got the attitude. It's unbelievable, the positive attitude they all have. I came into coaching and it's like, okay, I'll give it a shot, with these ladies. But they have embraced the practices and the workouts. And it's like, I ask and they just do it without question, no arguments or anything. And it's so amazingly fun.
Well, you mentioned that they listen and that positive attitude. In the short time you've been at Knightstown, coming from the AD standpoint, you relate, and this is something we talk about quite often, you relate the game to the girls very well. What do you do, or how are you able to find that relatability to send that then to your players?
For the love of the game. I mean, it's kind of like buying a new car and you get that new car smell. Right? Each time they come out on the court, I want them to have that same feeling. And if they have it now, after high school, they'll continue having it and continue playing and stay healthy the rest of their lives.
Because tennis is something that you don't have to play in a competitive match. You can go to, I think we were talking, a tennis club or a fitness club, and just because I think you still do that as well.
Correct.
Quite often, and so it can be fun in general as well. Most enjoyable thing about coaching for you?
Seeing how well especially with the Lady Panthers, how they are able to absorb the new knowledge and put it into practice. They've recently learned how to do the slice serves, and just seeing them all trying it and making it go in, it's like the lights just go in my head like, wow.
So it's always neat to see, especially what they don't think they can do. Then like you said, you relate it to them, and hey, look, they're doing it. A couple minutes later.
I had one girl said, I can't learn this. And it's like, well, it took the other girls a whole basket of balls. You've done it 5 times. So she'll get it by the time she finishes that basket.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thank you. This time, all the time we have for segment 1. After the break, Coach Potter will join us for segment 2, and we'll talk more into this season.
A working mom who brings her best to both roles. A community-owned telecom that connects her home with high-bandwidth fiber optic. Mom can work from home with fast, reliable connectivity and be there when the kids come home. When everyone logs on, the internet connections stay fast and the family stays connected. 9-Star Connect. Community-owned. Community strong.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Panther Preview Show. We are continuing to talk to head tennis coach Jack Potter. Coach, I'd like to, we've kind of talked about your background and likes and dislikes and that type of stuff. I'd like to dive into this season. While relatively short so far, I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about that. Compared to most, I would say most spring sports or most seasons, you were hired a little later than what I think most coaches would have liked, because of the off season. But I mean, you dove right in. You got busy right away. With this new team, what did you look for in your beginning workouts?
Desire for the game. From the first meeting with the ladies, and I set up voluntary workouts, and the fact that I not only had 100% show up, I had 200% because they were help recruiting other players to come out, because even though we're working out, they were having fun.
Well, and you started with, I think, like you said, with the workouts, I think 12?
We started with 9 to begin with. And we grew to 22, but we've lost a couple, but that's due to other circumstances.
Sure, yeah.
But they're hoping to come back next year.
And 18 as a tennis squad for a school our size or a school any size that's pretty impressive. And attribute you and the girls for that. So coming from my side, thank you for that. That always looks good on all of us. You've got a large squad this year, larger than many years in Nicetown I can remember. Albeit when I was in school, our boys tennis team I think was 4. I was on the tennis roster, never played a match of tennis in my life. What kind of challenges does that present, 18 girls, 1 coach?
Not enough of me to go around. But the ladies are very patient with me. I can give them workouts to start on their own while I can focus on the other players that need a little bit more assistance on a specific part of their game. Mm-hmm. And there's no questions from any of them. If I had them using our iCoach devices, thanks for the purchase on those.
No problem.
They have come in very handy. But if I say go over there and hit 500 strokes on that, they go over and hit 500 strokes. They don't hesitate. There's no questions. And again, I can't emphasize on how well that swells my brain, with the excitement.
What about the benefits of having 18 girls to 1 coach? I mean, is there any benefits to that? I mean, I know you'd like to do one-on-one instruction, all the time. Any benefits to having such a large team?
There is, because there's always a challenger. Every time we have a practice, there is always someone challenging for someone else's spot. And that will keep all the girls on their toes and having to earn their position each time they go out.
That's not a bad thing at all. Competition is good for the soul.
It is.
Mother Nature hasn't really played nice with us. It was nice in the winter, not so nice so far this spring. You've had to be inside quite a bit. What what unique challenges does that play? Once again, are there any positives to staying inside?
We'll start with the negative and go forward. The negative side is they don't get a true perception of the court, mm-hmm. as far as boundaries, the net height, and so forth, until they actually step out onto the court. But however, playing indoors, you do have a wall that will return the ball all the time. So you can get more strokes that way. Mm-hmm. The more strokes you have, the more the memory muscle you develop. We learn how to play pitch and catch indoors. And basically you have the tennis racket and you can throw the ball to each other and you're catching it on the racket, not with your hand.
Okay.
And so that helps develop the eye-hand coordination and the touch and feel for the ball.
When I played tennis, at some of the camps that I went to and worked at, it was funny. My ball always went into the net or over the fence. There was no in between. It was, I tried to do the flip of the wrist, and it still, it didn't work. But when you got here, one of your things that you wanted to do was schedule a scrimmage, and it's the first scrimmage that I've had, boys or girls, since I've been at Nicetown. First of all, how did the girls respond to that? It's a competitive environment, but more so laid back than some of the other actual matches.
Our ladies still responded very well. We went into it all new together. Mm-hmm. But it helped us get our feet wet so that when the actual match time came, they're not as timid, mm-hmm. which we did see this last Monday. And but the difference of doing a scrimmage and a regular match is you go by time and not by number of games.
Okay, so like a regular match, you play sets. This is just straight time.
Correct. You do 2 20-minute segments of 20 and then a segment of 10.
Okay.
And that way you can switch up opponents so they're not playing the same person twice.
Oh, so you can switch them as you please.
That is correct.
Okay, that's nice. It gives a little leeway there as well.
Right.
You mentioned that your first match was Monday against Seton. Some timidness there. Didn't get completely finished. But how did the girls respond to the first match of the season, and what did you see out of them that you liked?
We were fired up going into it. Our singles are doing fine. We're missing one lady who's normally in our top 3. So everybody has stepped up to the next position higher, and they were playing very well. As you'll meet with Emma here in a few minutes, she has been playing number 1, and she has been taking it, to heart. And really, there are so many positions on our team, they're just a little bit away from each other. So our number 1 could be our number 1, 2, or 3 person. So there's no chance of me what they call stacking the team,
right?
Because they're all pretty close to each other.
That's great, and that's good that going back to the competition, that you have one pushing another, 1 pushing 2, 2 pushing 3, 3 pushing 1, all the way around. Kind of looking at the schedule, like I said, very, very short into this. Any certain matches stand out to you, or that the girls have talked about they really want to win match A, B, or C?
For me, personally, I want to beat Greenfield because that's where I went to school.
Sure.
And so you always want to put the stick in the eye.
Yeah, beat the home school. I get it. Yeah, been there, done that.
So that one stands out for me. But each match that we go into, I look forward to because I get to see how much our ladies have improved from match to match.
On the schedule, of course, there's always going to be teams that are better or quote unquote better than others. Who would be the on paper the toughest match that we'll play? I know LaPelle's typically had a pretty good tennis program.
The ones that have racket clubs that are close to them,
okay,
like Newcastle, LaPelle, those will be some of the teams that put forth a harder challenge because their players normally play indoors over the winter, and so they don't have to knock off the rust like the rest of us do.
Right. Okay. Makes perfect sense. Maybe we should find some donor to build a racket club in Knightstown. Hint, hint. Anyway, last question I'm going to ask. There are a couple tournaments on the tennis schedule. As a coach or a player, do you approach those any different, or we take match 1 and then we just go on to match 2, or because there could be multiple, is there a different mindset there?
There's not really a different mindset, especially for the youth, because from one match to the other, their energy builds right back up. So it's not like it's you're 50, 60, 70 years old where you have to recuperate.
Right.
They recuperate within a matter of an hour, where it takes some of us days.
Okay, and I feel like I could be in that ball club as well at 30-some years old. Well, Coach, thank you for being here. That's all the time we have for segment 2. Good luck this season. When we come back for the third segment, we will be talking with tennis teammates Emma Grubbs and Marty Burton.
A neighborhood drive-up builds their menu around locally sourced foods. A community-owned telecom delivers fiber optic bandwidth that helps them leverage high-performing technology with lower startup costs. Turns out, going local doesn't just mean fresh, it means better. 9-Star Connect. Community-owned, community-strong.
Welcome back to the third segment, of the third second, whatever, of the Panther Preview. We are now talking with 2 members of the tennis team, Emma Grubbs and Marty Burton. Ladies, thanks for getting out of school, joining us today, and going to have some pizza. And I'm sure you didn't want to get out of school.
It's great. It was hard.
Let's kind of start from the beginning of this season, or you know, your season in general. Marty, you're a freshman. Emma, been playing for a little while. You know, like we talked in the car, not an extreme amount, but talk to Coach a little bit. And not many people know what goes into preparation for tennis. Kind of what do you guys do in the off season, or have done so far with Coach or previously, to get ready for the season?
Well, me personally, so this is my 4th year on the tennis team, so you always have friends, and so like if it's a good day, you're like, hey, let's go play a little match between us, and you kind of are able to keep up your skills and then try out different things that you watch on TV or see someone else do.
Marty, how about for you?
And for me, I've actually never like touched a racket until I decided like, hey, let's go try tennis. And so I really haven't been able to do anything on the off season because I'm just now on the on season.
Well played. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Emma, this question will be more than directed towards you. How is this off season different than the previous with a new coach?
We did a lot more hands-on stuff. A lot of the other times we did conditioning, like, you know, we'd go run for 20 minutes or we would do sit-ups and crunches and stuff, which is all good, but it doesn't help you actually understand the game better. So, you know, yeah, I could go run for 20 minutes, but I'm not going to go run for 20 minutes in a tennis match. I'm going to be more shuffling my feet a little bit this way and then that way and then, you know, and then stop.
Because this is your 3rd coach in 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's in any sport, that's, you know, not the best option
yeah,
for
always
anything.
different playing styles.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you've had, we'll say, a match and a half scrimmage and plus the rain out. Walk me through, both of you, how you might prepare for a tennis match mentally.
So you always have that first one where you kind of see how you played, and then what I always do is I always get there a little bit earlier than everyone else, and whatever wasn't my strong suit that time, then I will try to work on that. So for my scrimmage, I had trouble with my forehand. So when we were warming up, I would make sure I was constantly trying to hit more with my forehand than my backhand. And so then then the next time if I'm like, oh, my serve's weak, then I'll go and work on my serve more and try to balance everything out.
Okay. Marty, how about for you? What do you think heading into your first tennis match that you're going to do?
Probably warm up with one of like the older girls, because you can usually like learn more from them than just sitting there and like serving to yourself on the other net, or just telling yourself you can do it. And yeah,
being in that mindset.
Yeah.
That's okay. Let me ask you this. Hypothetically, I know nothing about tennis, which I honestly don't know a whole lot, but I know nothing about tennis. How do you begin each match with it being, let's say we're at home? Do we automatically serve first? Does the opponent automatically serve first? How do you decide that?
So you actually start out with a 10-minute warm-up. So that's, you just hit the ball back and forth, and then after the warm-up, if you're at home, then you will spin the racket. And so if you have a Wilson, then it's M or W. If you have a Prince, then it's P or D.
Okay.
And so then you have, it's like a coin toss.
Okay.
So they call it, and then you say, oh, it's this or that. And then if they win, then they get to choose if they want to serve or not, and then you get to pick the side.
Okay. Marty, I'm going to start this question with you. New player, you go to a practice or a match here in the future. Do you kind of think about who you're playing against, or do you just go play and try to get better, being a new tennis player?
I usually just try to like play and get better, but I like to watch like the older girls and watch the other team and see like what they're good at and what like I could like use in the future.
Okay. Emma, how about for you? Practice or matches, do you take the same thing, or do you kind of pick and choose who you're playing against, that type of stuff?
I always try to, normally like the first half of the first set is trying to find out what their weakness is, and so then you try to play to that. So if they're bad at backhand, then you try to hit constantly to backhands and try to make them back up. And sooner or later, you will kind of frighten them off, and they'll start backing off.
Okay. Singles or doubles? Besides the court lines being wider, any major differences that either one of you, of course, a seasoned tennis player knew, any differences that you both see personally?
Yeah, actually, I think singles is probably easier for me because you don't have to like worry about the other person, and like, I'm not Emma.
I played doubles for 3 years, and this is my first year playing singles.
Right.
And so, the biggest part to playing tennis is you have to know what your other opponent's going to do. So with a doubles team, you're not only knowing what the other two people across the court are doing, but you also have to know your partner's problem. So if your partner can't hit, is not good at net, then, Abby and Cameron, they're really good at that. Abby's a better net player and Cameron's a better back player. So they will try to switch and get Abby up front.
Mesh very well together.
Right. And so you have to not only know you have to know everyone's weaknesses. You have to know your own and try to help everyone. You have to play to your partner's benefits, I guess.
Did you ever get frustrated with obviously 3 years various partners in doubles? Get frustrated to where you knew they should have done one thing, they did something else, and do you talk about it in between points, or how do you go about that?
It's more of, there's obviously you want to win, so there's frustration when you walk off the court and you're like, I should have won that. But I've played in multiple other different sports with teams, and you can't blame one person for everything.
Sure.
It's a team. Even if our individual, it's still a team. You can't just blame another person. But you always try to play, to
just go out and do
yeah.
it. And yeah, been there, not with tennis, obviously, been there, done that. Marty, new tennis player, kind of like we mentioned. Any highlights that stick out in this preseason? Something you did in practice, or something that was fun, or that you set your mind to and did, or have done so far?
I really liked one of our more recent practices where he made us do net while they were trying to serve at us and backhand at us. I thought that was really helpful, so you can shuffle your feet and work on racket placement. And
so they're hitting it at you, you're at the net trying to hit at different various locations. Okay. Emma, how about for you this preseason? Anything that stood out in your mind?
Over spring break, we actually had a serving practice, which was about an hour and a half worth. The only thing we did was serve, and I'm not the strongest server, but now I can probably say that my serve it's going to go in, it's going to be solid, and it's going to be threatening, I guess, in a way. It's going to be hard to hit back.
More confidence for you to serve.
Right.
You know now that I can do this, basically,
right.
is well, good. Both of you, what advice might you give to anyone younger that's thinking about playing tennis? You kind of mentioned with Coach that tennis isn't necessarily the most prime time sport. Once again, not the most fans. But what advice would you give to anyone younger that want to play tennis?
Do it. Just go out and play, because even if you don't think you've never picked up a racket before, then no one has. Especially for our program, there's not a lot of stuff. Or when I was younger, there wasn't an 8th and 7th grade team. You came in high school and they're like, girls tennis, and you're like, well, I've never, don't even know what I'm looking for in a racket, but yeah. So come out and play. And our team especially, we're very close. We're all friendly. You'd be in the hallway and someone would be like, hey, how are you? You ready for the game today? We're friends,
right.
And we're very welcoming to everyone.
And that can go a long way. Marty, how about for you? What would you say to someone younger?
I would definitely say go for it. I was doubting it. I really was. And Ashley was like, hey, let's go do this. I'm like, okay. So I went and we talked to the coach, and he's great. And it's awesome because, like Emma said, you are just friends, and they'll take you to the tennis courts just from the school, just being friendly, just driving you there so you don't have to walk. And
we do have a club junior high tennis team now. My goal next year is to make it a school team. Besides simply just playing and not your first tennis match being in high school, what other benefits might that have for not just girls tennis, boys tennis as well?
Well, if you want to go to college, then just being in a sport looks good, and it makes you look like a more well-rounded student, and you get to branch out into a different group of people that you may not have been with.
Lastly, question for you, Emma, because Marty, you'll be back next year, hopefully as a sophomore, and the coach might have something negative to say if you weren't. But what's something that after you graduate, you can look back on for next year's team and say this is something that they'll do well?
They will do well in their doubles, and they'll communicate well. Everyone can boost each other up. They're very positive. Everyone has something good to say about someone.
I think we have a good future in Knightstown tennis in general, boys and girls, a good spot for where both of our programs are. That's all the time we have for today's Panther Preview. I would like to thank all our guests on today's show. Don't forget to continually check the athletic website, www.knightstownathletics.com, and the athletic Twitter page @CAB_athletics. more importantly, and most importantly, don't forget to come out and support our student athletes striving to be their best. Thanks again to 9-Star Communications and everyone at Greenfield Central High School. This has been Panther Preview on 9-Star Channel 9. Until next time.